Welcome into another post-game edition, and happy to say victory post-game edition of Spits and Suds right here on 105.3 The Fan. I'm Gavin Spittle, and I'm joined by EP Ringside. He's our NHL insider, Shap Shots, where you can subscribe to all kinds of information. He is our very own Sean Shapiro. Frosties in hand.
Here we go. Cheers, Gavin. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. We deserve that one. One. Well, this is not a series that you can switch off the TV and go to bed. This is not a series that you can leave the arena and beat traffic. It's just the reality is they're going to keep coming, and you have to hold them off and hopefully provide your own offense in the third period. But hey, a win's a win, and the series is tied at 1.
Yeah. And tonight, too, was a really interesting turn of events because this game kind of showed me a couple different things. The big storyline from a Stars perspective is Roope Hintz gets going, right? The four-point night for Hintz, basically after being effectively kind of called out, then defended by his coach, all in a span of 48 hours. He kind of goes off, and then you have the Avalanche push back and have their comeback. And I think it's important to note, and you can look at it a couple different ways, but this was an Avalanche comeback really without Nathan MacKinnon or Cale Makar's fingerprints on it. It's one of the rare games where I thought Cale Makar bobbled the puck more often than he normally does. Nathan MacKinnon didn't have his typical collection of ooh and ah rushes and everything like that. And this Avalanche team is built to come back, even when, if you're an Avalanche fan and you're going back to Colorado 1-1 right now, you're looking like, well, we did that without the two big guys just going. And that's a key development to me from this storyline. So it is. That's who the Avalanche are, though. They came back more in the regular season than any other team. Against the 3 goals they scored tonight was the fewest they've scored in the playoffs this season. I mean, now they ripped Winnipeg quite a bit in round 1, and obviously the one other game against Dallas. So, so to me, this was a classic game of, you know what, Dallas's big guys showed up. Hintz showed up. Heiskanen showed up. Colorado's 2 main ones didn't. It's hard not to. I mean, Nichushkin scored again. He's got 8 goals now in 6 games or whatever it is, right? It's crazy. This was a gut check time for Dallas at the third period. I think that penalty kill at the end was huge. You talk about kind of one of those little moments that's kind of get lost in the big narratives.
Yep.
But that one was big, and we got a fun series now. So I'll let you get me on track and get us focused because you're great at that. So
well, it's really weird. Like at the end of the game with the power play, I have this really bad working theory about that being shorthanded at the end of the game does have some advantages, and one is that you can fire the puck down. As far as with an empty net. So it's just something. But I thought it's interesting because on the surface, it does seem at the end of the game that Colorado does have fresher legs. Maybe it's because they're chasing. Maybe it's because they're aggressive in the Stars zone, and it appears that way. But I thought the Stars did do a good job as far as holding off. I did want to start with Miro Heiskanen on that first goal and how aggressive he was. And I just think that's a play that we look at. And, with the highlight on Cale Makar and the spotlight, I just think it was a pro play as far as keeping it alive with larger players fighting for the puck, having the wherewithal to start to go back to the point, realize Ben's back there. So you, in essence, kind of faked Colorado out by moving back in and a beautiful one-timer and a wonderful pass by Hintz. And I just thought it really showed, like you mentioned the big people showing up, and number 4 certainly is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, the Heiskanen drift is big right there, but to me, that whole play, and it takes obviously 2 to tango for a great play. To me, it's watching the way Hintz goes and gets that puck too, because if you go back and you kind of freeze frame through that play too, Hintz goes from effectively the right post, waits for that puck to kind of drive through, and so Hintz's ability to win that puck back amongst kind of a sea of legs and sticks and kind of get the refresh and the regroup, like there's 2 parts to that, where it's, I think, as you pointed out, great awareness by Heiskanen, great job to get open for it. But I think as great as the passes by Hintz, it's the puck retrieval first that makes that whole play go for me right there. And that is a huge moment in the game. That is a huge thing that gets kind of, we talked a lot about Hintz and how he needs to get going and everything. And that really, I think that goal, that assist really starts setting things up. But Heiskanen was also someone who needed a bit of a statement game too, right? Like the lasting memory of game 1 is him getting burned by Miles Wood in overtime. Like he's someone else who needed that moment too. So 2 guys on that first goal who needed a statement when it came, and it's a big one.
It's a game of inches, and we almost had our second straight year of Jamie Benn with a game misconduct. I mean, love the replays that TNT showed. And it was close, but shoulder on shoulder, head naturally whipped back. Hate to see it because I really like Devin Taves as a player, but that's part of the game. But it was a clean hit. And, really, it was interesting because the physicality of Ben certainly was a focus for Colorado. It kind of, I don't want to say it took them off their game, Sean, but, I like the ramp up of physicality by Ben.
Yeah, I want to talk about Ben overall, but real quick, I want to talk about that hit because I actually think it was the right call. As far as the review, I was really happy that they didn't give it the minor penalty afterwards because, like, I think it was a fine play call to review. They reviewed it and they reviewed no penalty. Too often, I think they review that and they feel like, well, we have to default to a minor penalty. And so it was a vicious, heavy hit. Let's call it what it is. But it was a legal hit. He got Taves right in the chest. And to me, the extent of the head contact is the whiplash in the end of Taves colliding with Wyatt Johnston as he goes down. That to me is more of the head contact than anything from Ben. So I look at that play and kind of like, I know there's anyone from Colorado listening to this, they're going to completely disagree because that's the nature of fandom and everything like that. But I thought that was the right call on that. And tonight, I thought Ben kind of had one of those games that will fly under the radar as he's been moved off the marquee. Him and Sagan are no longer the major draw in Dallas. They're no longer the focal points. But tonight, both of them had kind of that, like, we're still here, still have graciously moved into this supporting role and can do it really well type impact. Ben, the physicality was there. I really liked his work on the power play, particularly the net threat presence on Heiskanen's second goal and the shorthanded goal that made it 4-rip at the point. That's Ben and Sagan jumping in on the rush, both there, and both of them crashing the net hard and stopping at the net and working on generating that. So in order to win this whole thing and get this done, right, you need that perfect storm of players from various eras, quote unquote, to find the way they can contribute. And I think Ben's done a really good job of that. I think Sagan has done a better job of that lately too. And so credit to both of them, because they, I thought it was kind of funny. Like, we saw the Sagan goal, and there's the screen pull and the view of, you see them celebrating. And it's like, there's been 15 years or whatever, however long it's been, of not 15 years. I don't think it's been 15 years. It's been 10, 12 years of those guys celebrating goals together. And so, but it's kind of an image that's a lasting part of Stars history. And now it's not the main part of everything, but it can be so important, because we saw what Colorado did in the third period. And without that work at the end of the second, who knows where this goes. So
just when you count Nils Lundkvist out, 5 minutes and 26 seconds, we got to call it what it is. If we're going to get on the guy for a bad 2-on-1 and how he took those angles, that was a heck of a play.
That was a great, do you remember, Gavin, the old Michael Vick Nike football commercial? Like, it's like the Michael Vick experience, where it's like, they strap the kid into the roller coaster ride, and it's like the Michael Vick one.
Yep.
That's what the Nils Lundkvist experience was tonight. Because it was only like 5.5 minutes, so it was the length of like a really short roller coaster, a really long roller coaster. And man, like, he was pretty good for the first two periods. He has the really great play, jumps in. And honestly, I think the reason he got more shifts, it's not the assist was nice and it was pretty, really nice play. But there was a play about 8:22 left in the second period, where Nils Lundkvist bodies out Val Nichushkin in the corner. And you're like, Val is a big man. Like, that is not a play that Nils Lundkvist is supposed to win. And that is the play to me where it's like, oh, that's the play where, in the coach's mind, Nils Lundkvist has won the ability to play more. And he played in the third period for the first time since game 2 against Vegas. Now, the other reality, and you talk about the Nils Lundkvist experience, of his third period shifts, he had, so he ended up having, let's get this completely right, muted properly. So he had 4 third period shifts. The first one ends with a 12-second shift that ends in a penalty on the Marchment Kiviranta entanglement, right? There's that. And then him and Ryan Suter are out there for goals against on back-to-back shifts. And it's hard to put a ton of the blame on Lundkvist for that. And to his credit, he was out there for the final 21 seconds of the game after Lindell had scored to make it 5-3 into the empty net. But it's kind of the frustrating reality of the Nils Lundkvist world, where he had, as great as that play was in the second period on the assist, as great as the killing off the play in the corner against Nichushkin, it's going to be hard for the Stars coaches to not see, hey, we played him for 2 real shifts in the third, and both of them we got scored on.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard for coaches not to think about on the flight to Colorado tomorrow night.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's remember that altitude on Saturday night and see if it becomes a factor.
When you're gearing up for good times, nobody gets you ready faster than Specs. Stock up for the season with lower prices on a Texas-sized selection of world-class wines, hard-to-find spirits, craft beers, and gourmet foods, all under one roof. It's your on-the-way, less-to-pay for everyday store. So, when you're getting ready for a good time, Specs is ready to make it great. Because at Specs, the fun starts here.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Whether you love true crime or comedy, celebrity interviews or news, you call the shots on what's in your podcast queue. And guess what? Now you can call them on your auto insurance too, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. It works just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you coverage options that fit your budget. Get your quote today at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Okay, we have tons of feedback, and that's so awesome, Spits and Suds listeners. We truly appreciate. Stick tap to you guys. Cameron says, good to see Rupe get going, and what a pass from Nils. We have to get better in the third. Let's see. Taylor Garrison. Did you see that Pavelski breakaway? Whoa, he just looks so slow out there. You think Stankoven replaces Pavs on the power play anytime soon? I know, Sean. This is what he says. I get he's a legend, but I haven't noticed a single shot tip all playoffs. I love Joe, but thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to read word for word. So point 13 of the my 2020 from the post game tonight. I'll just read it word for word here. Point 13 of my 2020 was Joe Pavelski is not fast. He's never been fast, but his botched breakaway in the third period was about as old as I've ever seen him look.
Yeah.
Just like that is, I mean, that was, he looked really old and slow on that play. And it was, as far as when it comes to the power play, you talk about Stankoven replacing him on the power play. I don't really like Stankoven as a bumper guy. I don't like Stankoven to me, and seeing how Stankoven has thrived in the AHL on the power play, it's been more off the flank. So I don't really see him as a solution to replace Pavelski in that role. So that's one thought there, but I get what you're saying, and it's I have a hard time. I don't know if I'm being too sentimental on this one or not, but so right now I'm still having a hard time pulling Pavelski out of the lineup.
Yeah,
but I'm also I'm willing to admit that there is got to be thought to it. I mean, let's like, this is a perfect example of we should also talk about the fact that, you know what, there aren't as many sacred cows anymore, right? Like, that's the other thing. You have tonight, even though, and I actually liked it a lot, was tonight in the fact that, so Mason Marchment comes back in, right? And that's he hadn't played since game two of the Vegas series. And they took out Radek Faksa. Radek Faksa is the guy who scored your series clinching goal in game 7, 2 games ago. Faksa, to me, being taken out of the lineup, I think it was the right decision, but not because of how Faksa's played, but to me, it's a sign that the Stars are at least looking at why and how things happen as opposed to just results, right? Because Faksa scoring game 7, that could have been the golden ticket. So, we can't take him out of the lineup. He scored a game 7 goal, right? I think Faksa will be back in the lineup sooner than later by either choice or injury. But it wasn't, he scored, so he has to stay in. And to me, that is a big proof of life that the Stars coaches here are thinking about. What is the process? What is the way? How do we change these things so we're putting our best team on the ice each game? And to connect this to Joe Pavelski, if Joe Pavelski continues to look slow, if Joe Pavelski continues to not produce, eventually you get to that decision. The other key thing, and this is an important thing to note. Scratching Joe Pavelski is an organizational decision. And I think that's the other key you have to remember. Scratching Radek Faksa, picking whether it's Ty Dellandry or Craig Smith in the lineup, that's not an organizational decision. That's Pete DeBoer and his staff deciding what they do. Scratching Joe Pavelski is a call and a decision that Jim Nill is in on, Jamie Benn in the team leadership are briefed on, this is a room shaking type move.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying, and I just want to kind of give people an idea of what is not at stake is the wrong word, because I think Joe Pavelski would take, I think Pavelski would take it as kindly as possible, but he essentially changed the culture of the Stars when he signed with the team. And so much of why the Stars have succeeded and have been as close as they've been, and why they've been able to bring in a Ryan Suter and allow Matt Duchene to kind of be the reclamation, or because of what Joe Pavelski's done. So for Pete DeBoer to say, it's not Pete DeBoer and his staff being video game style, oh, well, we can take Joe Pavelski out for a game. There's so many things, so many other human elements to this that come into play that I think you have to remember all that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I want people to know that is the reality with certain players when it comes to, there's a human element to this, and the other all the other factors that come into play that we have to think about when we're saying, oh, just hey, scratch this guy, take this guy out. There are certain people who there are different rules and laws and social economic norms about scratching a player that you have to keep in mind here.
Yep. Zach Mitchell says, get your anxiety, blood pressure, heart pills ready, people. This is what this series is going to be. Embrace it. Don't disagree.
Yep. But that's playoff hockey. Just honestly.
Absolutely.
That's what
playoff
you live for,
hockey.
So.
Yeah. Playoff hockey SZN. I know you weren't asking me, but he and Suter were on the ice for the first 2 Colorado goals. He made one good offensive play, but he is still playing pretty terrible. He needs to sit, and this is coming from someone who wants to see the kid succeed. That was in regard on Nils Lundkvist that someone had asked, and that was playoff hockey SCN responding. However, that third period was a glute workout. Steven says the Stars honestly look better until the momentum swings and they can't grab it back. They also seem to play more loose against the Avs' depth rather than dealing with McKinnon and Makar. Anyway, what happens when the Stars don't go up 3+ goals to start, especially in Colorado? Well, we talk about the first 10 minutes in enemy territory as far as withstanding, and that can kind of extend to the end of the first period, Sean, as far as, there's going to be a big pop in the crowd and the barn will be rocking on Saturday night.
Stars are also one of the best road teams in the NHL. That's the other fact too. We look at, there was a big talk when they went to Vegas, right? Dallas went and won game 3 and 4 in Vegas. So Colorado does present a different level of challenges at points. But you have to figure out how to lock some things down at the end. It doesn't matter where that game is played. I think that's just the reality here. The other thing is you have to, I think the other thing for that Stars fans are struggling with, and struggling might be the wrong word, but I'll use that word. I think one of the things that some Stars fans are struggling with is it's okay to win games 5-3. As much as that feels a bit more hectic and it doesn't feel the same as like if you win 5-3, you've still won the game. And the Stars are scoring more goals this series. They're getting up and going. And I trust the Stars' depth overall more often than I trust the Colorado depth. And so from the beginning, I picked Dallas to win this series. I picked it was going to be 6 or 7 games. That hasn't changed for me. And I'm not finding, like, the comebacks are the concern. They were a concern for everyone in the NHL. They've been a concern for everyone for years against the Avalanche. So.
Yep. Dart asked, the style they used to close out games against Vegas clearly is not working against Colorado. What are the main differences you see, and how can the Stars better close out against the Avs?
I mean, don't think they tried to use the same closeout style
No.
tonight that they'd tried to use against Vegas. I mean, tonight it was the shots at the end of the game were 31-31. I know Colorado had an edge in shots in the third period, but like you have third period. Let's see how many. Let's take a look here. Stars had 3 scoring chances. Vegas had 8, according to Natural Stat Trick. So there's a bit of a discrepancy there, but I don't really look at. I don't think Dallas bunkered as much as Vegas pushed. And the other thing is, this is a series where you're trying to. Nils Lundkvist taking shifts in the third period when you're up 4-0. Part of that is, let's try to save some legs for later in the series, right? There are parts of that where you're trying to do that. This should have been the thing. So I honestly think if Dallas had been up 3-0 or 2-0 going into the third, they play a tighter defensive game. I don't think they let Duhaime get loose for his chance. It's a weird one. I get the question, I get the concern, I get a lot of people are worried about, hey, Colorado's going to come back. But at the same time, if we're doing an Avs podcast right now, the question is, why the hell does it take being down 3-0 or 4-0 to wake up?
Right. Yeah. Let's see. Z-Wasuko says, I need tips on how not to age rapidly during the round. It's good to see Hintz and Segi get going. I thought Rope was pretty good, not just in scoring, but situational awarenesses. He made some great passes. Special shout out to Lundkvist feed.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
My suggestion for not aging is So
yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, because we're all aging. By the way, I'm just going to add real quick. Kind of battling an injury. My mouth is swelled right now, so it's not based on the. I know it's not based on the frosties. So if you hear me slurring, I'm just letting people know. I think my temporary cap came off on one of my teeth. So yeah, good times. Alt country and beyond. Thoughts on Nils? Nice offensive press on the goal in D seemed better. Yeah, I mean, we kind of highlighted on that. At times good, other times, as Sean correctly pointed out, not so good.
Yeah.
MB Tendy, maybe an unpopular opinion, but this is still a solid win in my books, even with the way it ended. Avs are an elite team, and it'll never be easy. When an elite team is playing desperate hockey, all we got to do is steal one in Colorado. I'm loving our chances. Rupe had a game.
No, I agree with that. I mean, this is still a good win. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's a third period comeback that led to some anxiety and stress at the end in Dallas. But this is a good win. This is a solid performance. There's a lot of boxes you need checked moving forward. The Hintz getting going, Heiskanen stepping up a bit on the power play. Ben's play tonight. This is still a very good win. The fact that Colorado made it antsy at the end shouldn't change that.
Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Bunch Mox, huge bounce back game for Hintz. We agree. Really loved his game tonight. Think this is the performance that sparks him, and we see the hints from last year's playoffs. Well, tonight was a good start, and Sean certainly mentioned that.
Yeah, and we don't know what Hintz is dealing with. He's dealing with something. And Pete DeBoer has basically said as much without saying it. He's like, I'm not giving you the story of what it is and everything. And I don't know what it is or what is actually limiting him or whatever, but he is dealing with something. And it feels like it is the way Pete DeBoer has kind of slightly semi-mentioned, it tells you it's something that will probably have to get worked on in the offseason. So, but once again, that's another playoff hockey thing of what are they going through and everything like that. And it's everyone's dealing with something too. So, but I think I do think confidence goes a huge way, right? Like we saw in game 1, there was multiple times Hintz had chances where he just missed the net. And I think once you put a puck in the net, once you start getting the random secondary assist on an Esa Lindell goal from 199 feet, like I think that's the type of stuff that unlocks you're like, okay, I will score again. Things are going to go my way. And I think that's a huge step for Hintz here.
Mm-hmm. JT Manazzi, love the depth scoring tonight, but boy, I think Douchey is trying to do too much out there. That turnover that led to the second Avs goal was brutal. You think he's trying to do too much?
I don't know about doing too much. I think he's been. I didn't like that turnover, which is definitely a fair point. I think Duchesne's actually been better the past couple of games. I thought he was someone who took a little bit to get going. He's not under my list of big concerns right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it that way.
A very observant Brian Tatum asked this question. There were several times when the Avs defense moved up about 5 feet in front of their own blue line when we gained possession and we had a forward lurking just behind them. Why don't we send that pass off the end boards and have our forward race them? Always a great podcast. Interesting.
We're talking about 5. Okay, I'm just trying to play it out in my head of this.
Yeah,
He said talking about the play basically where the Avs defense were about 5 feet into the neutral zone. Was he
in
talking
front of
about?
their own blue line? Yes.
All right, so about 5 feet into the neutral zone.
We had gained possession, meaning the Stars.
Yeah.
We had a forward lurking just behind them, sending the pass off the end boards and have the forward race them.
Yeah. That is kind of part of how the Avs play the neutral zone. To be clear, it's one of those things where they take that away. And they do a really good because their defense skates so well. They do a good job of reading those plays. That's why the Avalanche do that. But it is a good point, and it is a reason that I'm sure we have a lot of hockey fans listening. So you've watched the highlights of games. So you saw the Pasternak Game 7 goal against Toronto, the hard dump off the boards and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those where I think occasionally you can unlock it that way. The key is just part of that defending part too is, and it's one of those actually, we talked about Duchesne a minute ago. There's a play in the third period where Duchesne actually tried something like that, but didn't gain the red line first and was icing. So like, that's the other part too, where you have to kind of play the the geography of it. But it's a good observation. So I appreciate, I really appreciate the observation. It's something definitely to look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Corn Dog and Jerry, any concern over the near collapse or just a forgivable product of not being able to completely contain a great team for 60 minutes? I think the latter half is certainly true. I mean, I think Sean brought up a point that we all need to step back and think about. This is the lowest scoring game for the Avs in this playoffs.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Green Bay of Texas. Shocker. Happy birthday, Sean. Is it your birthday?
It was 30 to 40 minutes ago, before midnight. So
well, technically this tweet came in 36 minutes ago.
So, yeah.
As we tape this, yes, it was yesterday that
Yes.
we sent it. Wow.
Yes.
Happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you. Yes, May 9th is my birthday. So
wow, congratulations. Did you do anything?
I watched a hockey game. I shoveled some dirt in the garden in the backyard and went and took the kid shopping to buy a Mother's Day gift for my wife and picked up a pizza. So Good day. Good day.
Good birthday to me. Nice. Green Bay of Texas goes on to ask, I love the Stars' energy in the first two periods, especially we need to start games quickly to set a tone. Take 1 of 2 on Colorado, and I'm feeling great. I think that would be great for all of us. Thackman, why do the Stars struggle with intensity after they get up to the big leads against the Avs? I understand the Avs have good players. Almost seems like they relax afterwards. I'll just say this, my opinion, and maybe it's magnified by the number of goals, comeback goals the Avs are scoring, but you even saw it in the Vegas game. Hockey is a momentum and a series of waves, and you have to withstand those waves at times. And there's going to be a rush at some point from the opposition. It can't be 60 minutes of dominance, Sean.
Yeah. I want to pull something up here. So something that I think a lot of people, because we get so isolated in our windows of this is our team that we follow and everything like that, we get so isolated that it must be only our problem. And I think that's something where we have to remember that the Avalanche do this to everyone. So let me pull this up here. So the Avalanche during the 23-24 regular season. There's a site called More Hockey Stats that tracks a bunch of interesting kind of off the wall things. So the Avalanche had 26 games they won where they 26 comeback victories during the regular season, which was second most in the NHL behind the New York Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing about it, though, is the Avalanche had 10 comeback victories where they trailed by multiple goals, which is by far the most in the NHL. No other team. The next closest was actually, believe it or not, Dallas had 7 in the regular season where they trailed by multiple goals and came back to win. Colorado had 10. 10 of those. And it's something where Colorado has been that team for years now. Like they were, if you go through this year alone, they've already got, Colorado has 5 playoff victories this year already, right? In 4 of those 5, they were trailing. They had to come back in 4 of those 5. So this is part of Colorado's identity. It is a lot of the counterpunch. This is what they do. And the fact they are doing what they do is not necessarily an indictment on the Dallas Stars. It can also be a credit to what Colorado is as a team. And I think that's something where, because it's always, we always look at things and we look at teams we get worried about, well, geez, this is a mistake on our end and this is what we're doing wrong. The other team is a good hockey team too, and they're trying to win as well. And I think that's another important key point to remember, because this is who the Avalanche are. And for Dallas, from your perspective, you keep your foot on the gas because of that. And I think Dallas did a good job of that. You go up 4-0. That's a pretty good job. I like the way they got after it shorthanded on the Sagan goal.
Yeah. Jeffrey asked an interesting question at JLux007. Request to deep dive into morning skates on an upcoming pod, please. Do teams send a coach to scout the other team? Do they have a social media guy passing info? Does the away team skate first and the home team gets to react and prep? Thanks. And I defer the question to the man that has been to 10,562 now morning skate, Sean Shapiro.
Morning skate's one of my favorite days. I love morning skate because it is both teams are in a good mood. Typically, there's a game that night. People are relaxed. So to give people an idea of how morning skates work in the NHL, the home team skates at 10:30. The visiting team skates at 11:30, and in many cases, the the road team is always doing their morning. The road team is doing their morning skate at the building where the game will be played. Whether the home team is doing it or not depends on what that team's preference is. So Dallas, for example, they practice in Frisco, but on morning skate days, on game days, they will do morning skate down at the AAC. That's what the Stars' preference is. The Avalanche do a similar thing too, where their practice facility is called Family Sports Arena. They will do their morning skates, but they still do their morning skates at Ball Arena or Pepsi. I mean, it used to be called Pepsi Center, but I think it's Ball Arena now or whatever. Mm-hmm. But Vegas, for example, in the last round, Vegas never does morning skates at T-Mobile. Vegas does all their morning skates out in Summerlin. So Vegas does every single practice, every single morning skate. The only time Vegas ever skates in T-Mobile Arena is the game itself. Never does a morning skate there. There are some other teams that have similar kind of ways they approach it. So the setup for this series is the home team will be skating at 10:30. The visiting team will be skating at 11:30. There's nothing stopping. Typically, it's the video coach who watches the other team's morning skate, because there's nothing stopping Pete DeBoer from watching the Avalanche skate, and there's nothing stopping Jared Bednar from watching the Stars skate. Nothing at all. So it is. It's also why, like, sometimes the lines at a morning skate are just, sometimes they can be that mental poker game, mm-hmm. because everyone knows they're watching them and everything like that. And I also think very rarely do you get there's not a ton of information overly gleaned from a morning skate that a coach actually is going to use that they wouldn't be able to get from warm-ups later that night. That's another key factor here, right? It's not like a morning skate is at full speed where a team is working on their neutral zone forecheck or working on a set power play or whatever. Those things don't really happen as much at morning skate. So that's kind of what happens there. It's they're typically 20 to 25 minutes. Some coaches push them a little bit further than others. In today's NHL, there's not a lot of practice time. So I've actually seen some younger teams, some teams that are in the rebuilding stage, they use the morning skate almost as a practice sometimes, but Dallas does not. Dallas doesn't practice much. There's some teams that don't. There's some, like Carolina, for example, doesn't do morning skates. Carolina doesn't do morning skates anymore. They very rarely do, which is funny to think about. Like, you think of Rod Brendamore, you think of this guy who's like always hitting the gym and everything like that. And he and he just has his team stay at the rink, stay away from the rink in the morning. So it's that's was there any did I cover it, Gavin? Like,
no, you did a good job. Yeah. No, you did a very, very very good job. And I appreciate that. And that was kind of fascinating.
When you're worried about underarm sweat and odor, it can be distracting. Like this. Or this. Or even this. It's time to silence those distractions with a spray of powerful Dove Men Plus Care Antiperspirant. Featuring our 72-hour protection and soothing 1/4 moisturizing cream. Because when you forget about your underarms, you can focus on being unforgettable. Dove Men. Forgettable underarms, unforgettable you.
Bosch tools are built for workers. Bosch's powerful hammer drill has kickback control to help work go more smoothly when you need it. The 2-in-1 impact driver and wrench quickly changes between bits and sockets, so you only need one tool instead of two. And the X-Lock grinder switches wheels up to 5 times faster than standard grinders when you need to change tasks in a hurry. Bosch tools take care of the job and you. Bosch tools. What hard workers deserve. Learn more at BoschTools.com.
This is it. We've got an Amex Platinum Pro on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. We haven't seen anyone relax like this before in the Centurion Lounge. Is he connecting to complimentary Wi-Fi? Oh, my! Look at that! He is! And you will not believe where he's going next. The Amex dedicated card member entrance for the win! Unbelievable!
When you get travel perks with Amex Platinum, you're part of the action. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex.
Flo, off topic, do you think Johnston and Harley are options for Canada at World Cup and Olympics, especially with Nil being an assistant GM? Would love to see them personally in Milan.
For who? Sorry,
for Team Canada at the World Cup and Olympics.
For Harley and Johnston?
Yeah. I wouldn't.
I mean, that's no, like it's you gotta, like, right now we're at the spot where, and this is nothing against those guys, but right now, if you were to go like a most recent, the forwards for Team Canada are going to be probably McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby. Hyman will probably go to play on McKinnon's wing.
Yeah.
Marchand, Barzell, Bedard, Point. Reinhardt's having a great year. He'll probably go. Like, I've gotten 10 deep already, and I haven't even mentioned Steven Stamkos, who's a Team Canada favorite, it's the forward group is
right.
so deep, and then like the defenseman, I mean, if anyone has a better chance of going, it's Harley, honestly, just because I think that the defense there's slightly more quote unquote questions, and I put that very loosely, but it's like the defense for Team Canada is going to be probably Makar, Morrissey. I mean, Taves will probably go to play with Makar. That'll probably be that way. I mean, I wouldn't personally pick him, but Drew Doughty still seems to be a fixture on all of these teams, so we know he'll be there.
Maybe Brent Burns.
Maybe. I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, interesting with Makar. The fact Makar is there, Burns starts to lose some utility as a lack of a power play role. Same thing with Morrissey. So,
yeah.
I mean, Harley has a better chance. It's just the Team Canada is so deep. Like, we're talking about, this is just I don't, and Nil having a hand in being part of the management group is not going to make him do favors for anyone else. So
have you ever asked Thomas, because he's a dual citizen, who he'd play for, United States or Canada?
Well, he's Canadian locked already. He played for Canada at World. He played for Canada at World Junior.
Oh, good. Yeah, good point. Good point.
So when you play for, since I have such a soccer brain at times, it's called you're like cap locked in soccer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the title is in hockey, but he played for Canada at World Junior, so he is a Canadian nationality wise. So
all right, good question, Flo. Tyler King, big scoring from the big names tonight. Yeah, you pointed that out just like Sean did. How do we get third period Otter back? He played fine, but he has been the opposite of the Vegas series. I actually think Jake Ottinger came up big in some big spots tonight. That would have been a tough goal going into the first period, tied at 1. So he made some big stops there. He made some big stops prior. Sure, he can certainly play better, but I thought he made some big saves, as did Georgiev. I mean, this is a series where goals are going to go in.
Yeah, and like you look at the goals from a goalie perspective against Ottinger. I want to make sure I have everything in front of me here as we're talking about this. Like, I have, for both goalies tonight, I have a hard time putting much blame on either goalie for, like, this is a 4-3 game where I think both goalies made stops where this game could have been 6-5, right? This game could have been a higher scoring game. The Ottinger stops in the first period alone, the one on Parise, and then the Lehkonen Nichushkin back-to-back was huge. I thought Ottinger was pretty good on that penalty kill in the last after Nichushkin's goal with what was it, like 3:45 left or whatever it was. So I am I'm not finding goaltending problems from this game. I'll put it that way.
Yep. Let's see. A few more. Chris Croson should blast at NHL on TNT for their extremely Colorado biased play-by-play TV people. Absolutely embarrassing for them, and the sponsors was about as bad as Joe Buck calling the World Series and the Cardinals or Giants playing. I don't know if any Stars fan will enjoy any national broadcast which mentions the other team.
Was tonight bad? No,
No.
and I'm not trying to be like, because we literally, Gavin, I think our last show we ripped in on ESPN for some stuff. So we have not I'm not afraid to criticize a broadcast, but I think Forsland did a good job. I think Olczyk does a good job. To me, this was not a, I didn't find it quote unquote biased. Now, I think the reality is a lot of people look at a national broadcast. I hear 32 different fan bases talk about how the national broadcast is biased against them. And so the other thing too is, and this is the other thing to remember, and I get this is the one, not point or defense, but I'm trying to figure out my right terminology for this, but you're talking about Eddie Olczyk is an analyst, right? His job is to analyze the game. He is not working for either team. A couple times Eddie Olczyk talked about how, you know what, if Colorado comes back, this would get pretty exciting. He's right. Like just from a realistic perspective, right? A 4-0 third period game is not exciting. It's not supposed to be exciting. It's supposed to be boring as heck when you're up 4-0. So when they're talking about that, it actually makes the game. They're talking like if Dallas had been the one that came back from down 4-0, they probably would have said the exact same thing about Dallas.
That's
so I want to be kind of clear on this, where I don't think, especially I think with the Turner broadcast, I don't think you have as many of these issues that we kind of try to find and dig into. It's and the other key here, if you really want to go and I wish that, like, I had a tweet about this the other day. Like, I wish local TV guys were still able to do after round one, because like
in basketball too.
Yeah, in general, like I wish they were. If you want to sync up the feed, because you can on the on the radio, you can do that too if you want your Dallas feed. So that's
Yeah, I think it's John Smoltz was talking about it on The Fan recently, where a lot of people thought he was biased against the Rangers, and it did come across that way, but he did agree that part of their job when a team is down is to basically help keep people around and use those storylines for that team. Yeah. And if you're just focusing on one team, like you said, that's up 4-0, that is not going to be great for the viewership. And their goal is to keep them around. I thought Paul Bissonnette brought up some great points tonight in between periods regarding, let's see what happens at the 10-minute mark of the third period. And Colorado at that point had scored 2 goals, so they were pressing. So I thought that came to fruition. So Zeke here, thoughts on Mason's Marchman's return to the lineup, please. I thought he was phenomenal.
I thought he was good too. I thought it was a very classic Mason Marchman game, because I think with Marchment, you got to kind of take you have the expected good with the bad at the same time. I think he can be a force around the net. He can help on the forecheck, all of that. And at the same time, he takes penalties. He took the penalty against Rantanen. He had the Like, I just don't get the, and this is not a tonight question, but it's the reason the was called against him is I don't get why he's such a diver. Like he is. Like let's call it what it is. Mason Marchment dives a ton. He's literally been fined multiple times. He's been warned multiple times for diving. He is on the NHL's diver list. The Kivy the play where him and Kivy Ranta both get penalties and he gets the like I didn't like the embellishment call in the last game. I thought it was a bad call. But this one, it was the right call. Like I don't get what he's doing there. Like I don't get why he's trying to. He's got no benefit of the doubt in what he's doing, and so he is a very good player, can be very impactful. He's at his best, I think, on the days he decides that he's not going to take that extra slash, trip a guy. Those things that tend to be some of Mason Marchment's weaknesses. And this is a Colorado series and a Colorado team where you don't want to put that team on the power play. I think that's the other kind of thing that comes up here in my mind on this. So
yeah. Santi asks, what do you think the Stars have to adjust to after getting out to big leads? I read that because Sean, I sent you something today. Zach Parise after morning skate talking
that was
about
a good
the
one.
Adams Rum and talking about his coaching staff. They never think they're out of games. He talked about the calmness down 3-0 in the game one after the first period and how no one flinched and the confidence was so high still in the locker room. So they really believe that they can come back from these leads. So adjust. I think the Stars just have to play their game, be tight defensively. I thought they were better tonight at times defensively and just, try to maintain that.
Well, the other thing about this Colorado team that you have to, like, you talk about culture and winning and all of that jazz and everything. This team they won the cup 2 years ago. They know what they're doing. They're a damn good hockey team. They know what they're doing. And it's a team that, one of the things that I noted that's been really interesting to me is Gabriel Landeskog is on the trip with this team. Gabriel Landeskog, for people who don't like, he was on the ice. They had an optional morning skate the other day before game one, and Gabriel Landeskog is out there in a sweats in track in this like the sweatsuit thing, like skating with some guys. And so, for people who don't know, Gabriel Landeskog is the Avalanche captain. The last game he played was I believe it was when he lifted the cup. I believe that was the last one. The last game he played. He has missed I just want to make sure I've got that right. Because he played he missed all. Yeah, they won the Stanley Cup. He missed all of the 2023 season. He missed all of this season. He had to have cartilage. He had a cartilage transplant surgery in his right knee. And he is, I know there's hope. Like I've heard like the rumblings of like, oh, could he return in the playoffs and all that stuff? Yada, yada, yada. But I mean, he's in a tracksuit when he's skating. Let's call it what it is. But I think there's something subtly important to the culture of your team when you have this captain who hasn't played for 2 years is still around the group, is still like, that is a really well-run organization, does a lot of things the right way, and you have to give them credit too. Like you've got guys like you have Zach Parise is in his final playoffs. This is Zach. If the Stars win three of the next 5 games, Zach Parise's career is over. That's the reality. And you've got guys like Cogliano, who's probably similar. You know what? Dallas has guys like that on the other side too, where who knows? We may be watching the end of Joe Pavelski. We may be watching the end of Ryan Suter. Yeah. I would not be surprised if the last game of this series is the last game of multiple guys' careers. So, yeah, teams are going to respond well. Teams are going to start well. And I think it's one of the great things. Like next one you do with Luds, I would be fascinated to hear, like, I don't know if you've done one with him on this, but like Luds retired after winning in '99. I'd be curious if you asked Luds, did he know that, hey, my next, this could be my last game. I'm going to be done. And I'm done. Like this is, I would be interested. Like I think that's a great question to ask him as someone who has that perspective of what's that like when you know that someone in the room, their career is as long as this run goes, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know Lud's copied you and he's now in a movie?
The movie's Lud's in now.
I surprised him the other day because he had no idea that I knew. So in his hometown, I'm trying to pull it up. In his hometown, basically, he has a buddy, and his buddy was like, "Hey, do you want to be in this movie? It's called The Secret of Bog Lake."
Okay.
Like, and he plays a guy sitting at the bar.
Well, that's fitting. So
yeah, and his line in the movie apparently is, "I'll take another beer."
I'm reading the quick IMDb description of this now. College friends and family gather for a lakeside vacation, but find the locals' hospitality unsettling. Despite odd rules, they embrace activities until strange occurrences disrupt their getaway. Okay.
Listen, okay. I can't hold you guys down. I mean, you guys are just going all Hollywood on me.
Comedy / horror. Okay. I did not.
Okay. Most power play goals. It was sent out tonight in franchise history by defenseman Craig Hartsburg, 10. Someone asked you about it. Sean said I mentioned Craig Hartsburg in my book.
Mm-hmm.
And the name of that book is 100 Things Stars Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die. It gets 5 stars, 4.8 to be specific, on Amazon. Sean Shapiro is the author, as well as We Win Here, where he co-authored it with Stephen Reserve down in Austin, who joins us regularly on Spits and Suds. So you're a beast, my friend. 2 books, and I love the book reference tonight and mentioning just one of those stars, North Star specifically, that doesn't get mentioned a lot.
Yeah, Hartsburg is he's actually still a scout now for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Actually, works with their player development. He is, and I wrote about him in the book. One of the things about Hartsburg is he was kind of I can't think of a better way to phrase this, Gavin, but he was very much like a poor man's version of Bobby Orr. And I don't want to, and I want to say, I can't think of a better phrasing right now, so I apologize for that being kind of the clunky comparison, but he was the defenseman that could skate. He would move the puck well. He wasn't Bobby Orr, but he had like that kind of impact on a team. He was part of that, like everything, all the offense ran through him. And similar to Bobby Orr, where Bobby Orr played at a time when medical advancements weren't good enough to save his knees. Craig Hartsburg's hips went out on him. And if Hartsburg played in a more modern era where medical advances were a little bit better, his hips probably don't go the way they did. And his career is a little bit like he kind of one of those careers that like burned so bright, so quick, but didn't have the longevity because of the hip injuries.
Yeah. So. Yeah. You can catch him at Shap Shots. You can catch him when he writes for D Magazine. He's all over the place at Sean Shapiro. That will detail everything that he does. My friend, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
I kind of feel bad I didn't get you a gift. I'll be honest.
It's okay. It's our show is a gift enough, Gavin.
Oh, man. No wonder your wife fell in love. Wow. Wow. My heart's beating fast, my friend. That was. We'll see if you join me Saturday night.
We got the late start. Here's the thing. This is the kind of the tough choice for stars for hockey fans. So we don't know the game time for Game 4 in Colorado because Carolina could be swept, which would be stunning, right? Like if Carolina got swept out, that would be stunning. So we all want more hockey. We want more games. That's great. But if the Rangers complete the sweep, there is a 7 p.m. Eastern time slot that now needs to be filled.
Ooh.
On Monday.
Wow.
If the Rangers don't complete the sweep, there's a double header that needs to happen after the Rangers game that starts at 7 p.m. on Monday. So if you want Monday night to be doing this show, Gavin, at closer to closer to midnight and not close to 1 a.m, you want to root for the sweep. So
got it. Good intel as always. Thank you, Sean Shapiro. I'm Gavin Spittle. Hey, listen, this is a marathon. We're going to be with you every step of the way. And thank you for listening and supporting Spits and Suds. Really, really appreciate it. 1-1, and that's what we asked for. It's going to be a marathon of a series, and super excited to bring you more action on Saturday night. For Sean Shapiro, I'm Gavin Spittle. Thank you once again. Have a great day, everyone.